Hi everybody, Dr. Dan Lawrence here. So the purpose of this video is to act as a companion to chapter one of the digital writing book. But I hope you enjoyed it. I really do. I spent a couple years writing this thing and working on it, even though it's a brief text and it's a culmination of a lot of the thinking and work that I've done. You, and it started when I was working in digital marketing, right? So before I came to UWS, I had a career in digital marketing and, award winning and all of that sort of thing and a lucrative career. But I couldn't help but feel really compelled to get back into teaching because there was so much going on with like the Cambridge Analytica scandal, and I could see this massive acceleration of the way that companies and political parties and organizations were using digital media to persuade people. And my background is in rhetoric, right? Rhetoric is the art of persuasion. And so I wanted to connect these two things. I wanted to bring rhetoric into digital media in a really immediate kind of way for this reason. It seems to me that rhetoric is both a tool that you can use to create really persuasive, compelling messages and also ethical messages using digital media and social media. And rhetoric is also the toolkit that you need to use to arm yourself in analyzing incoming messages that can be extremely persuasive and even algorithmic. This is why I talk about procedural rhetoric in the book. We're all targeted. Every American citizen that uses the internet and social media is intentionally targeted with messaging and advertising, and not just for products, right? It's not just benign information. We're targeted with disinformation and political ideologies, and this happens across every platform, right? Every platform has a proprietary algorithm that it uses to serve you content based on your behavior, based on your interests, based on the data that they've collected about you. And every big technology company collects data differently and serves you content differently algorithmically, and we don't always understand that black box. We don't always understand what's happening on, behind the screen, so to speak, or in the server farm, but we know that something is happening algorithmically. And so it's on us to use tools like rhetoric to help us decode and analyze messaging. So that's the basic thrust of the book, right? Is to kind of create this union between rhetoric and digital media, and that's informed by an interdisciplinary approach with my background in digital media theory and the philosophy of technology. And you'll see I even mentioned Heidegger in here, right? In the instrumental definition of technology. So, we can apply Heidegger even to social media. How does that work? What does that look like? Well, think of, the instrumental definition of technology is explaining, the function of the coffee cup is to deliver the coffee to the human. But no, Heidegger says actually it's to live in a world in which coffee can illuminate your mind and it changes your relationship to the world. And Michael Pollan actually writes about that really interestingly, how coffee kind of spurs on the industrial revolution and this sort of thing. I don't know how true that is. That's not my area of expertise. I'm not a anthropologist, a coffee anthropologist or sociologist, but you can see what Heidegger's saying. So in social media, the instrumental definition of social media, the instrumental definition of the technology of social media, if we followed that, we would say something like the purpose of social media is to, communicate with your friends and family or something. That's true, right? I mean, that's what most people are doing, or they think they're doing when they use social media. You're sending messages to your friends, you're posting on a wall, you're archiving photos. That seems to be the instrumental definition of social media, is you're just communicating with people. But that's not enough to explain the whole thing, because what's really happening is the company, Facebook, is gathering, thousands and thousands of data points about every user and then feeding it into their, the Facebook advertising platform. And then companies and organizations can use that data to create compelling messaging, and try to sell you products or to try to change your mind about political candidates, to change your perspective on wedge issues, to influence your perception of, important, even, things that are more than wedge issues, existential problems like the, global climate change and these sorts of things that are, you know, say the fossil fuel companies sending you disinformation about climate change. That's quite serious, right? I mean, social media changes our relationship with the world. That's the Heideggerian, going past the instrumental definition of technology. Social media is more than just a tool that allows us to connect with other people. It can change us even psychologically, right? I mean, there's an enormous amount of studies that have been done on the relationship between social media and mental health, right? So just the very nature of seeing the highlight reel or the successes of so many other people can have a negative impact on our evaluation of our self-worth, something like that. It can actually change the way you think. Some people report that they start thinking in terms of the medium of a post, right? So like, and you hear about this too at like tourist destinations. There's like extremely long lines of Instagrammers who are waiting to get their one picture in front of, the Eiffel Tower or the Arc de Triomphe or whatever it is, or a certain cafe or a particular beach, a certain rock on a beach that's gone viral or something like that. And so people actually start reshaping their lives to seek out opportunities in which to create material for the media. So that's actually reshaped the way that they interact with the universe. It's actually changed the way that they live, right, in a really fundamental way. Even me right now, I'm recording a video. This is, not something that's like a natural medium for me or something like that, but I'm doing it to provide context for the class and whatnot. And then you're consuming listening to the things I'm saying and interacting with them, and maybe that changes your perception of reality based on the arguments I make and my success or failure at doing such a thing. But that's Heidegger applied to social media, right? Is that it's not just a tool, it's not just an instrument by which we communicate with people. It actually can change our perception of reality. It can change the way that we live our lives. You're constantly checking your messages and this sort of thing. It's designed to be so addictive, right? So beyond that then, so because of that problem, right, we use Heidegger to recognize that, okay, social media is this kind of serious technological shakeup, a serious medium that's changed the way these applications have changed the way that we interact with the world and each other, and even the structure of society, and our economies massively have shifted our economies toward primarily digital advertising and e-commerce, right? Or at least facilitated e-commerce and digital advertising in so many ways. And so quickly and so massively, something like 2.5 billion people using Facebook now, although there's some user drop off recently in the last year, couple years. Rhetoric then is a way that we can, it's a mode of viewing the world. It's an analytical toolkit to help analyze what's going on and to be less persuaded, or to analyze messages and create compelling content. That's where the focus should be, right? Is, if you want to be a really effective, compelling content creator, someone who uses social media effectively, you have to think about all the fundamentals of rhetoric. Things I mentioned like ethos, pathos, and logos, thinking about audience and demographics. And finally, we can see by the nature of social media and the data and the analytics that it affords us, we can think about audience in really concrete kinds of ways, right? I know when we read like Plato's Phaedrus or something, it's Aristotle, audience, we understand it. We understand that, okay, every text, someone's going to read it. There's someone on the other end of it. But with social media, we can really think even more concretely about audience in this really immediate way because we have data. You might be able to say you're a social media coordinator at a large bakery that makes artisanal cupcakes, right? You might have data that, you know, one gender over another gender are your primary visitors to your Facebook page, or that a certain age group responds. Say, women between the age of 25 and 35 are the people who visit your page the most, or they respond to your advertising more than any other demographic, right? By liking, performing a specific action on the advertisements that you're sending out into the world. Um, that's data that you can then use. It's like, okay, we're going to target those users then. And it drills down a lot more than that too. It might be like, okay, it's women between the ages of 25 and 35 who have a college degree and who make between 60 and $85,000 a year, and they live within a specific geographical radius that you can actually draw on the map. Um, and they have user behaviors that show that they're heavy spenders and have a minimum of one child and so many other like really this is when you're a digital marketer, this is the kind of data, demographic data, that you're going to be working with. You're thinking really concretely about audience. And I think that what we forget, and what most classes, what most teaching and training programs in digital writing and digital marketing won't tell you, is that there's a grave ethical responsibility that comes with what I call hyper targeting, or specific targeting like that, demographic based targeting like that. Um, because isn't there just doesn't your conscience just kind of the alarm bells start going off when you start dividing a population into specific subgroups based on identifiers like that? Think of the biases that can emerge. And then, because what you have to do then as an effective digital marketer is look at your demographic data and then create messaging, imagery, videos, written content that you think is going to appeal to those specific demographics that are your primary customers, right? So that like you're intrinsically going to be you're going to be making assumptions. You're going to bring biases. You're going to bring perhaps problematic ways of thinking about people into that conversation, right? And so you have to be very conscious of that and very aware of that you're not like creating prejudicial content, right? Um, and there's so much more we could say about just, is advertising ethical, and is targeting people ethical, and using their data in ways that they don't understand. It's so problematic, right? But nonetheless, companies are doing it. And those are the responsibilities of someone working in digital marketing and social media, is to use data to target people and to develop content that is written content, videos, posts, imagery that they think is going to specifically appeal to them. And then even further, right? Further, then you optimize. So you might do something called A/B testing, right? So you put out, let's say you have a new line of cupcake at your bakery, and you create two different ads to test them out. You're going to compare them side by side. That's why it's called A/B testing. So, in one image, maybe you have a photograph, maybe it's a stock photograph, maybe it's something you took, a picture you took at the bakery. Let's say it's like a family all gathered round and they're holding the cupcake, and it says, try our new raspberry whatever. It doesn't matter. It does matter, but I'm not that creative. I don't know what. I was some kind of raspberry swirl. Come in and have a free sample or something like that. But you're testing. There's the imagery of the family that's around the cupcake. But then maybe the B image, you create another advertisement. You take a different photo where it's like a young couple and they're like maybe romantically sharing the cupcake or something like that. The one of the one person is allowing the other person to take a bite of the cupcake or something like that. And then you're going to run those ads simultaneously to try to isolate, and maybe have the same copy, maybe have the same language underneath image, run them at the same time to the same demographic, and then see which one performs better. That's A/B testing in a nutshell. So simultaneously running two different, and you might actually have like many different ads running that you're going to compare, but right now we're just say A and B, test those two side by side and see what the data looks like. Did more people comment on and like and respond to the A post or the B post? Okay, let's say it was the B post. Now we know something about what's more effective in our digital marketing. So then you can run B up against C and see which one's going to perform better. It's a process of optimization, right? Based on data analysis, based on actual analytics that you can view in the platform. That's how this works, right? It's fundamentally, I don't want to. It's a blend of being a digital writer is being a blend of both an something of an artist and a scientist, right? It's both data analysis and creativity. It's both writing and analytics. It's persuasion, right? And that's what modern persuasion is, what contemporary, I always say modern, but contemporary digital persuasion looks like. It's what persuasion looks like is data analysis combined with creativity. It's writing, it's imagery, it's all these things combined. And that's basically chapter 1 of the book. I just wanted to kind of spell out some things for you and give you some insight into some of the ideas we're going to come across in the class and throughout the book. And it's not an exhaustive course in that way. This is the jumping off point. If you're really interested in like email marketing or something, there's training out there, and that's a career path, and you might decide to specialize in a certain area of the digital realm, or but this class is just to give you this broad kind of entry point into digital writing, and that's backed by rhetoric, right? And because rhetoric gives you analytical tools, persuasive tools, tools to think about audience, about how to persuade people emotionally, how to persuade people based on credibility, how to analyze audiences, and then ultimately to do all of that with an ethical, philosophical, conscientious manner, right? To understand that when you develop content, there's a real person going to be reading it on the other end, that an actual human being is going to be perceiving this. So it's to see the human in the data, to be able to work with data, but to see that there's a human in the data. And that's maybe the one thing that we forget far too often. All right, I don't like to have these things go on too long, but those are some of the, not even comprehensive, but some ideas to kind of help you understand where the background with which I'm approaching chapter 1 of the digital writing book. I don't know if I'll have a video every week like this, but just to get us started, I think it's a good thing. I hope you continue enjoying the class. Bringing all these theorists and these ideas and this industry experience together in this kind of wonderful, critical, digital melting pot of ideas. Take care of yourselves. Good luck. Let me know if you need anything.